It is football. It is here. The NFL season is upon us. We'll have a game tomorrow with the Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles, hosting their rival, the Dallas Cowboys. We already have players standing on the ground in Brazil for another game that we'll have on Friday before Sunday's slate of games. That's between the Chargers and the Chiefs. We have a lot to get to. Micah Parsons leading us off once again, like he has for most of the offseason on these streams we have on Bleacher Report. I'm James Palmer with you again on a Wednesday at noon. We'll be doing this till noon 30. I'll always jump in the chat, always try between each and every topic to look at YouTube's chat, to look at the chat on the app, and be able to answer your questions and try to get involved with all you guys to fire some things out there. What we're going to go through the course of today. Micah Parsons, we're going to start there. Quinshon Judkins, what's happening with who was supposed to be the lead back, possibly the rookie, heading into the 2025 season for the Cleveland Browns. What's the latest there, and could he be playing week one? We'll talk. Other notable injuries I can give you from around the league. Elijah Vera Tucker is going to be a big one we'll get to there at the top of that list. Also some ones in a huge clash between the Bills and the Ravens that will be on Sunday Night Football. Also the Eagles. I mentioned that they're going to be playing tomorrow. I'm going to tell you one guy that I think might make a jump forward. That could be the quarterback. One guy that might take a step back. That could be the running back. I'll tell you what intel I have there. And the Texans. Nobody has mentioned them this entire offseason. Nobody's talked about them at all. The Broncos are the sexy pick out of the AFC as the sleeper. I think the Texans might be the sleeper out of the AFC. I'll tell you exactly why. All right. We're going to start with Micah Parsons' health and where that is right now. The back injury is legit. I know this is a surprise to a lot of people. Everybody used on every media site, I think, imaginable throughout the course of this offseason. It was Micah Parsons' back injury. Well, actually, he does have a back injury. He's dealing with a back strain. That's probably not what you want to hear short term if you're the Packers, not when you want to hear long term either with a 26-year-old pass rusher. A back injury is nothing you want to hear when you're giving out the money that they gave to Micah Parsons. But he is managing it. He has been managing it. He has been taking steroids for it. There's options that he can go through, to my understanding, to get him on the field in the opener, and I think that's going to happen. He's pushing to play. He obviously wants to play. I think throughout this entire fiasco or mess or saga or circus, or however you want to call it, throughout the course of the offseason, we did forget Micah Parsons loves to play football. You ask people around, he loves being on the field. He wanted to do it in Dallas. Now he's doing it in Green Bay. And I think he's going to push to get on the field because I think he really wants to show what he can do after everything that's gone on this summer, because he is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He is off to one of the best starts we've seen from any pass rusher ever. And I wanted to get into this, what's going to happen in Green Bay as they embark on this season. I think this is going to be an outstanding like pass rushing duo. You look at him, Rashawn Gary, and you look at what Gary's been able to do. I think he had 7.5 sacks last year. Parsons on a Cowboys team where he had 12, nobody had more than 5.5. And I think this could be one of the best duos out there in terms of getting after the quarterback. Now, it's going to be probably slow go early on about all the different places that they can line up Micah Parsons, because obviously that's what he's best at. He can line up over the center, which is something I wouldn't mind seeing against this Lions team in week one with a downgrade at center. You got a rookie at guard, and him rushing from the interior could be something that he could be successful with. But he's joining a defense that's actually pretty good. I mean, I'm looking at it now, and it's like they were tied for 8th in sacks last year, and you bring in Micah Parsons. They were 4th in forcing turnovers, 6th in scoring, 5th in total defense, 7th against the run. Where they were 12th outside of the top 10 was on third down, and I think that's a spot that they're going to get a lot better at, because Rashawn Gary was outstanding getting after the quarterback on third down. If you look at his pressure rate, now you have to worry about Micah Parsons as well. They're going to get 2 guys home with probably just rushing 4. I think it benefits them greatly to have the ability to get home with that, and it helps them on third down immensely. I mentioned Micah and how his usage will be this season. That's part of coaching him. And that was part of, there were teams interested for sure. There were teams, a variety of them, more than the Packers were interested. Some teams were curious how they would use him. The Packers understand that he can do a lot of different things. But coaching him to do all of those things, I think, is the least talked about aspect of this. I remember having a conversation with Dan Quinn a couple of years ago before their game against the Panthers. I don't know how I remember this, about how coaching Micah Parsons Monday through Saturday is extremely important, and how you use him on Sunday is extremely important. He used to talk to like NBA head coaches, he told me, about using players that are very, very versatile, whether they can be a point guard and bring the ball up one game and then play on the post the next game, like guys that can be so dominant in a variety of ways. DQ was always trying to figure out how to keep Micah engaged and keep Micah motivated because he is a little bit of a different cat. Not a bad dude, just a little bit of a different cat. And they really missed DQ last year. And I think that played a part in this as well because he was able to connect with Micah. And they're going to have to find a way. Jeff Hafley and company are going to have to find a way in Green Bay to figure out how you coach him just because he's such a rare skill set. How do you get the most out of him? And how you go about all of that, not just on Sundays, but throughout the course of the week. And I think that's going to be the part that we're going to be fascinated with throughout the course of the season. They wouldn't have made the move if they didn't have a plan. They wouldn't have spent the money if they didn't have a plan. But it's going to be interesting to see how they execute that plan and how they utilize him and how they work with him because he's a different dude, a little different dude. All right, before we get on to Quinshon Judkins, I mean, this chat's been real light, guys. I don't know where everybody is. There's no excuse for trading Micah Parsons other than Jerry Jones' ego. He let that get the best of him, and when he get no return, not going to add up. Yeah, if you look at this trade right now, we'll get to it for just 1 second. It doesn't look great. I mean, if you would have done this during the draft, that's when you should have done it. If you weren't going to bring him back, they had rumblings in the building during the season that they weren't going to have him. And if you wanted to do it, you would have gotten all this capital, and you would have used it in this draft coming here. Now you put him on a team like the Packers that is a real Super Bowl contender. And what does that do to the picks? It puts them at the bottom of the first round. They might as well be almost second round picks if the Packers accomplish everything that they want to accomplish. So no, I do think his ego, his old schooledness in terms of the contract being a handshake with Micah back in March and April, and then not really doing anything on top of that. Everybody's to blame a little bit. Everybody knows that Jerry probably is the most to blame for this not really happening. What do you think, Cam Lurie? I think he's suiting up week 1. I do. I really do. All right, Quinshon Judkins made some calls on this morning. This is a guy, right, that was outstanding at Ohio State. Big win, by the way, for my Buckeyes over Arch Manning in Texas. Now the #1 team in the country, no big deal. But they thought he could be their #1 back, picking him in the second round, and just hasn't been there. Obviously, the off-the-field legal stuff has been there, and then it's been cleared up, but he hasn't signed his contract. There was a report by Mary Kay Cabot, who covers this team brilliantly and does a great job with it, that she thinks that Judkins is to be back soon, that there's a chance he could play week 1, and he could be back early enough to contribute in some capacity. She thinks that the contract is what's holding things up now, because remember the second round pick contracts were a big holdup this past year because of some guys at the top with Jaden Higgins and some others getting fully guaranteed contracts, which usually doesn't happen for second rounders. It changed the course of how all these second rounders signed. She thinks that's kind of what's holding this up, because where he's slotted, he's to make $11.4 million over 4 years, and he'd like that fully guaranteed like everybody else. My understanding is that's not the holdup for this. That's not the assumption of why this is held up right now. There's not a lot of information on it. To my understanding, it's still up in the air right now. Things are still up in the air for week 1. They're still up in the air beyond week 1 because nothing's really changed in what's happening between the two sides. The issue is there's not a whole lot of information about what's going on between the two sides. But Judkins is kind of exactly where he's been for some time. So I don't know. It's a Wednesday. Contributing on Sunday in their opener, I think, seems to be pretty difficult. But obviously, this is a guy that they want to use a lot during the course of the year. They got rid of Nick Chubb, obviously. You look at what he's done in his 3 years at Ohio State. He's like I looked this up, the only player in FBS with 1,200 or more scrimmage yards and 15 touchdowns in each of their 3 seasons. He can play. He can really play. But this is being held up, but nothing has changed. And so I don't know if you expect him to be out there contributing week 1. Going back to college, I don't know if that's actually merited right there. I don't think that's exactly happening, but here to there. So let's get into some of these injuries. I see what else you guys have here. What do you think, Cameron? I think Hayward does play. What do you have the chances of? Who do you have in the Chargers-Chiefs game? I think the Chiefs want to come out and throw it, and I think they want to show you that they can throw it. It's been a big emphasis, not just this offseason, but last offseason they wanted to come out and be more explosive as an offense. I think we're really going to get a chance to see Josh Simmons playing that left tackle spot. This could have been like thievery to the rest of the league if they have a left tackle for the next decade. I like what the Chargers are doing, though. I think this is going to be a really, really good matchup, and we're waiting. I've covered so many of those games of Justin Herbert not getting over the hump against Patrick Patrick Mahomes. It just hasn't happened. All right. Just heard we got Justin Jefferson playing this week. I think it's Wednesday. We'll find out more about that today, but I think they've always been planning him to be back this week. Is Johnson on the Steelers going to get any starts this year, or Warren get most of the reps? I wouldn't read too much into the unofficial depth charts right out of the gate, to my understanding. That's kind of what I've been told. Elijah Vera Tucker, big news this morning from my colleague at The Athletic, Diana Rossini, kind of breaking that this is an arm injury. There's many believe that this is very serious. This could be season ending. I think the Jets will have some more information on this tomorrow. This is a guy that they're really relying on this year. And they made him a captain. He's been really good at that right guard spot throughout the course of camp. He's been really, really good and dominant in the run game, which is something that this Jets team wanted to do with Breece Hall and Justin Fields and lean into the run. I had a prediction that they'd have more rushing attempts than any other team in football, in all honesty. But this is a big blow to their offensive line. I think Joe Tippmann will slide over to that right guard spot, and then Josh Myers will slide into the center spot. But this weakens an offensive line that they thought could be better. It's been something that they've been searching to piece together for the last several years, obviously. But he had a really, really good camp. He was really good in the run game, like I mentioned. He's had some injury issues. They wanted to keep him full-time. He's playing on that fifth-year option. And he was looking to get paid after this year, certainly. And so this is a big blow to a Jets team and Aaron Glenn, who really wanted to run the football quite a bit. Some other injuries I want to get into and go to that Ravens-Bills game on Sunday night. Whew, what a monster. That could be the AFC title game. You never know. I mean, the Chiefs always playing it. I've been to it every year. The Chiefs have been in it every year, but who knows? These are the two guys. This is the first time ever in NFL history that you have the two players that finished the winner and the runner-up for MVP facing off in Week 1 in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Likely, not likely to play. Isaiah Likely is not going to play, and that's always been, to my understanding, the assumption here. They always thought that there was a strong case he may not play a game in September. We'll see. They're monitoring it. It's going according to plan. He had a screw put in that foot from the broken bone. They were never going to rush this. They know the importance, obviously, of this game and getting off to a fast start, which Lamar Jackson and them have honestly struggled a little bit. But in the first 2 weeks. But they didn't want to rush this. He could miss September. We'll see. But that's where it stands with Isaiah Likely. I think the Bills' cornerback depth and health is something we got to keep an eye on. Remember, Maxwell Hairston, who they took in the first rounds, on IR. He'll miss at least 4 games with that LCL sprain. Tre'Davious White has been banged up a little bit. And then Christian Benford, I think he's going to play, but he's also been banged up. He hasn't practiced since August 21st, but he has been working on the side with some guys. Obviously, you need some health in the secondary going against Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers and company. And to combat that on the other side, I think this offense for the Bills is going to be healthy. I think Khalil Shakir has a good chance to play in this game. He's going to be a limited participant, to my understanding, today in practice. But he did practice on a light week last week, coming back from this ankle injury. He's about as tough as they come. This would be only about 4 weeks removed from that ankle. But I do think there's a very good chance he plays. I think there's a very good chance he could play quite a bit. And he is extremely important to what Josh Allen and this offense do. He's led them in targets, and he's a go-to guy for Josh Allen for sure. And they have tremendous rapport with one another. So getting him back on the field is big. Devon Achane, I think he plays. This calf injury has been a little bit of something, but Mike McDonald thinks that they're going to play him. I'm excited to see Ollie, honestly. I drafted him in my fantasy team late. But I think he's going to play. Juwan Jennings, he hasn't done anything in San Francisco. Also a calf injury. He wanted a new contract as well, but he's back on the field Monday. I think he can play on Sunday. It's still early. We still haven't really put everything in. He's missed a lot of time. How many snaps can Juwan Jennings get? I think that's a big question there. He obviously knows the offense. He knows everything that's going on there, but he's missed pretty much this entire training camp. So obviously you want to be careful in what you're doing there. Brandon Ayuk probably like week 6-ish, I'm hearing, could maybe where he kind of comes back. All right, that's some injury stuff. Let's see where we're at. If we got any other chats in here. Arkansas hold it down. Chiefs are trash. Okay. But they said it was some loophole. It seemed like you can go back if you haven't signed your contract. That was a discussion with Shimmer Stewart with the Bengals, who was going through his contract dispute about the language that they tried to change within his first round pick in his contract, and there was some rumors that he would go back. You have the opportunity if you never sign, but it doesn't really happen specifically. I don't think it's happening with Judkins either. Really hurts the Jets' run game. Yep, Jets' run game definitely hurt. Jets were liking him mostly when it doesn't mean much. I think it does mean something. It means something to what you want to build. It means something to, this guy's had some injuries and you wanted to lean on him and give him a second contract. I think that's a big part of it. You want to protect and have your offensive line intact from week one to as far as you can go when you're trying to evaluate Justin Fields when you made him the guy. So I think it does matter. They're trying to build something. They're flipping this thing over in Fulham Park, and it stinks for Jets fans for sure. All right, the Eagles are playing Thursday night. They're going to raise that banner at Lincoln Financial Field. It's going to be a complete lunatic factory down there in South Philadelphia because they're also playing the Cowboys. I want to give you a kind of a reason why I think they can repeat and why I think they can't, and two players I'm kind of watching too. I think a difficult spot to repeat, honestly, is, and I've talked to people in Philadelphia about this, they really think it's going to be very difficult to repeat as the best defense in football, and that's kind of where they finished. It's just volatility on the defensive side of the ball and remaining at the top is so hard. You ask anybody who's had really good defenses, just staying at the top is difficult. They obviously lost some edge guys. I think they reload they think Hunt's going to be really good. I think Jalen Carter's going to be good. I think the secondary, finding that second corner has been an issue. Look for Cooper DeJean to play outside and base, but play on the inside. When they go to nickel and dime, he's just too good in the middle of the field. I know they love their linebackers. I think they're going to cover every blade of grass with Zach Bond and Campbell, but I think I just think the health that they had was a big reason why they were able to win this Super Bowl. 21 to 22 starters go out there and play in the Super Bowl. And then it's the spot that Saquon Barkley's in. Man, did they rely on Saquon Barkley, rightfully so. Just voted the number one player, according by his peers on that NFL Network poll. It's very difficult after your 2,000-yard season. And I'll tell you why the Eagles are trying to buck the trend a little bit, but here's some stats for you. There's only been 2 repeat rushing title champs in the last 20 years. No 2,000-yard rusher has ever been the rushing champ the next year. The number of carries that Saquon Barkley had, he had 482 carries. No player with more than 470, not carries, sorry, he had 482 touches. That's carries and catches. No player with more than 470 touches has ever rushed for 1,000 yards the next season. 5 of the last 8 2,000-yard rushers missed at least 2 games. We know he's only been healthy in 3 of his 7 seasons. How do the Eagles use Saquon Barkley? Do they try to save his legs? Do they try to make sure that, they can maybe throw the football a little bit more? I have heard that out of Philly that that's a possibility. They definitely have the weapons to do it. But the funny part is, with everything I'm saying about the usage and how during the season he doesn't practice a ton, they got to get him to Sundays. He had more touches in training camp than he did in training camp a season ago. So are they still going to lean on him as much? That could be an indicator, yes. But all the history shows you it might be a little difficult. With Jalen Hurts, that's the other man I want to mention. I went out on a limb and I picked him to win MVP this year. How wild is that? But this is a guy that really just, if you ask people in Philadelphia, does exactly what they need to win. Last year it was, I know I have a great defense. I know I have Saquon Barkley. I'm going to lean on both of those. And that's going to get us a lot of wins, and it's going to get us to the Super Bowl. Oh, guess what? In the Super Bowl, the Chiefs' focus was Saquon Barkley's not going to beat us. We're just not going to get beat by Saquon Barkley. And you saw that. They bottled him up. And Jalen Hurts went out there and threw the ball all over the yard and won MVP. I think Jalen Hurts takes another step this year. I think he has a chip on his shoulder that he has not been getting enough credit for being, the quarterback of the best team in football. And I think he's getting a little offended by not receiving any sort of love that just this team is so good, you should be good. And he's done some really, really good things out there on the field the last couple of years and getting better in the pocket, getting better against the blitz, having a better completion percentage, all of these things. And so I think you're going to see a little bit different Jalen Hurts for sure. Landon Dickinson back out there actually at practice. He's expected to play on Thursday. Always plays through everything. It's not the knee that he was out with, by the way. Their star guard is a back injury. All right, what else do we got? Steelers D was super upgraded with Slay and Ramsey going out there. Steelers is a dark horse to make a deep run in the playoffs. You know what? I think they have to, right? I mean, there's some people that think, is it time for a parting of the ways between Mike Tomlin and the Steelers? It has nothing to do with Mike Tomlin as a coach. He will have a job before he gets to his car in the parking lot. But they have been on this course of just getting to the postseason, having a winning season, being an early exit in the postseason. Can Aaron Rodgers and company do that? I think Slay has another year left in him. You talk to people in Philadelphia, they still think he could play. I think Ramsey definitely changes that secondary. They wanted to make a trade with Fitzpatrick, with Micah, and moving some things back there. I just got to feel like, they're kind of all in, man. They really, really are. And it's... this defense took a step back at the back end of last year. They need to kind of play the way they played at the front end, the rest of the way out. What else we got? Still Slay from them, and Slay is still he can still play. They definitely think. Devontae Smith, good to go. Yep. He should be good to go. By the way, I've talked to so many people around the league lately, just getting ready for the season. And he's a name that keeps coming up going, if he was on any other team, he's a pure number one. He's about as tough as they come. He's really, really a lot stronger than you think he is. He uses leverage brilliantly. He's super tough. His route running is outstanding. He is a number one wide receiver. The only reason he doesn't get the balls is, you have A.J. Brown over there who's at the top of the top in that small group. So, that's a player that I love actually watching this year. I think my Eagles need to make a trade for another corner. They made a trade for a corner. He's just not ready yet. And so I think they thought Keely Ringo and that battle there would man it out. Then you go and make a trade for another corner. I think eventually he might be the one that steps in. But also Howie, him. He's never going to stop looking. How are the Steelers all in? They didn't mortgage any draft picks and have the most draft capital in the league next year. You have a 41-year-old quarterback. Like you signed TJ Watt to this big contract because he had leverage over you that you need to keep this together when you went out and made the trade for DK Metcalf and brought in when you bring in all these aging veterans, it usually means you're all in. Like you're all in on 2025. I mean, it's why Cam Hayward knows he has leverage, right? Because they know they need all of these guys to try to go out there in 1 year with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. All right, well, let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, Texans. Guys, I feel like nobody's paid attention to the Houston Texans after they've made the postseason each of the last 2 years, made it to the divisional round in each of the last 2 years, won their division each of the last 2 years. They have a really, really good general manager in Nick Caserio. They have a really good head coach in D'Amico Ryans. They have a defense that some believe could be the fastest and maybe the best defense in football this year. They have a dominant front seven. I think you put Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons, and you put Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson as maybe the best edge rushing duos in football. They have an unbelievably talented secondary. Derek Stingley Jr. is an all-pro and unbelievable. They think Lassiter, who they also drafted, could be just as good at the other cornerback spot. Like, they are loaded on the defensive side of the ball. CJ Stroud, I think we've forgotten what he did 2 years ago in his outstanding rookie season where he put up incredible numbers. Last year, running for his life behind a shoddy offensive line, and still was down a point in the fourth quarter to the Chiefs in the divisional round with no players. They were all hurt. And so I think we're kind of forgetting that. What I want to talk about and what I think could be really interesting is this marriage with his new offensive coordinator. And Nick Cali coming over, who was like Gronk's tight end coach in New England and worked with Josh McDaniels all those years in New England, and then spent a couple of years with Sean McVay. I think those are two really interesting spots to be. And he's going to put a ton on CJ Stroud at the line of scrimmage. And Stroud has been pounding the table, to my understanding, for this. He wants more control at the line of scrimmage. He wants to do protections. He wants to pick apart defenses. He wants to beat you with his mind. So his new revamped offensive line, obviously a huge question mark. But talking to people down there, they think they've been much more physical. They've played better as a group in terms of communication and cohesiveness than the previous group. They wanted glass eaters up there, and that's why they got rid of Laramie Tunsil. The culture was bad, in that offensive line room. And CJ making a lot of these calls at the line of scrimmage along with the center, but making, calls and changing plays from what he sees, getting him into the right plays. He kind of thought he was playing last year with one arm behind his back, to my understanding, in terms of what he was working with offensively. Now he's going to have the liberty to do a lot of these things, and he has a wide receiver room that is so competitive. Nico Collins is a star. Christian Kirk is kind of that outlet guy that's going to be really the opportunity to give him a lot of intermediate stuff, do different things, and then you get two rookies out of Iowa State and Jaden Higgins. Keep your eye on that name, and Jalen Knoll. It's in Hutchinson's in there too. Like, they're so deep at receiver, and Knowlton Schultz isn't a bad tight end. Now, Joe Mixon injury is big. Nick Chubb, to my understanding, is just going to be a bulldozer and maybe kind of just get some yards. But I really do think there's a chance we could be talking about, the Texans making a run in this postseason. I think they could win the division again for the third year in a row. If the offensive line comes together, they have pretty much everything else. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with a new OC and CJ Stroud wanting more say at the line of scrimmage. Guys, he actually did this at Ohio State. He had more freedom at the line at Ohio State to call plays than he did in his 2 years with the Houston Texans. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll see what ends up happening. But I think we kind of slept on we called it a sophomore slump, I guess, because that rookie year was so good for Stroud. He still played well. He still did well. And I think he's motivated to kind of come back and do some things differently. If Chubb can run the ball like he did in Cleveland, Stroud should definitely have a decent year. I don't know if he will. I think he's kind of lost a step. I think he's a little bit of a Mack truck. But I do think because of his physicality, because this line has played kind of physical, could he get 4 yards and help them out after first down or second down? You know what I mean? And kind of at least keep them a little bit balanced. I think Stroud can throw it. But I think you're right. Him doing things out of the backfield is extremely important. Go Seahawks. Fascinated to see what happens with Seattle this year. There's like a couple of guys, if they make the jump in year 2, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, and what can JSN do? I saw him light it up at times when I covered some of their games. I think it's going to be interesting to see. Houston on the defensive side of the ball is overall the best unit in football and have weapons on offense. They're a dark horse to make a Super Bowl run. Yeah, I agree. Here's the thing that I was thinking of. The darling, and I live in Denver, and I think they're going to be very good. The darling of the AFC has been the Denver Broncos, right? That's all what the national pundits are talking about. Everybody wants to know, what is Bo Nix going to do in year 2 with Sean Payton and company. I think they have a great offensive line. I think they have a great defensive line. I think they also have one of the better defenses in football. Who has a better roster? I mean, you could make an argument the Texans have a better roster than the Broncos. And they definitely have better skill players. And so it's interesting that everybody's talking about one team and nobody's talking about the other. I think Nick Callie is going to be a name to watch. And I think it's just kind of early. And maybe that's part of it, because Sean Payton is an established offensive mind. But it's kind of interesting to see that they're not getting any love. The Steelers all in. They wouldn't have. We're really, really arguing this all in thing for no flipping reason at all, aren't we? They're all in. Doesn't mean you can be all in and still plan for the future. You can do both at the same time. But when you have a 41-year-old quarterback, you're all in. Like, all right, whatever. Let's see if we got anything else. We got 1 minute left. If there's anything else in here, chat-wise, I never see any chats in the YouTube. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or like something's happening, but I never see like anything in the YouTube chat. Nobody wants to talk to me on YouTube apparently. Yeah, we got a minute to go, but I usually go long, so maybe we'll bounce if you don't have anything else. They're all in exclamation point, all capitals, period. There we go. Somebody getting in there. I'll give you my picks real quick that I did over on my show on The Athletic, working over there this season with Chase Daniel and Diana Rossini on doing a show. Before I go, I'll give you this. I had Jalen Hurts as my MVP. I had my sleeper team that nobody's paying attention to is, I say the Texans with this, and I could do that, but also I don't know if they're going to make any noise, but I think they maybe get to the postseason, is the Cardinals. I think they're a sneaky team. My pretender was kind of the Broncos. I think the hype is a little too big for what they are. The division is awesome. I picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. And I picked Jalen to be the MVP. it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Ravens. I think they have the next best roster after the Eagles, and we're going to see a big showdown for Lamar. And I think it means a lot for Lamar to go and have that Sunday night game against Josh Allen and the Bills. All right, everybody, this was an awesome Wednesday. We have football tomorrow. We have football Friday. We have football all day on Sunday, and that Monday nighter, man, what is that? Bears and Vikings, couple of second-year quarterbacks. Let's see what they can do. We have some great matchups in Week 1. Keep an eye on all those second-year quarterbacks. I think their paths are going to be very interesting and maybe one of the biggest things that we cover in the NFL this season. So enjoy your Week 1. Hope your fantasy team wins, and I hope your rivals lose, and I hope you believe that the Steelers are all in. Take it easy, everybody.